Hi everybody, welcome back. It's early March and today it got up to 60 degrees and most of our snow is leaving. We had about 20 inches of snow on the ground, 18 to 20 inches, and that's going quickly. So in a few weeks, quickly, we'll be outside. We'll be outside doing some shows and plant production starts. So, well, welcome back. And I brought, in fact, I just got this book. It's by Dan Pearson and Midori Shintani. I think I'm pronouncing it right, but it's a book about Dan Pearson's millennial forest in Japan. It's a beautiful book. And it's not just beautiful because of photographs, it's just the way it's written. It's very thoughtful about the process of planting the millennium forest, but it's also the emotions that went into it that Dan shares with you. And I haven't read anything but the first page, and right after I read the first page, I ordered another book that Dan mentioned on the first page about living in shadows. It's just a beautiful book, so I want to recommend that to you. And you can find the listing on linked in the description below for all the books that I enjoy. So check it out and see what you think. And I'm going to hold it up one more time so you get a good view of it. Again, Dan Pearson, a great, very sensitive designer in London. So if you have a chance, I know we're getting busy and getting into our own activities, which is very cool, but it's just a beautiful book. Okay, thanks. And then I wanted to just touch base with you. I've had some questions about the last shows we've done together about the grid relationships. And I think that's cool. I really enjoy your questions. And one of them was a very thoughtful one. It's about large groupings and small groupings and the mingling of groupings. So how do I determine when to use a large grouping within a design as compared to a small grouping or overmingling plants? And first of all, if you understand how each plant relates not only to other plants, but you have to understand how each plant relates to itself. The hardest group of plants to grow is a monoculture, because a monoculture slowly kills itself. You can ask any farmer out here about soybeans and corn. They put a lot of money into managing a soybean and corn crop. And the denser their plantings, because they're hybridized to collect light at a denser growth habit and growth rate, the tighter the plants are, the more chemical inputs they need to keep the plantings healthy. So when you look at how big a group you can use, I'll simply use Rudbeckia fulgida goldsturm as an example. Rudbeckia fulgida goldsturm has never lived within a large community within a prairie population, in a moist prairie. You've always seen them scattered in groups, smaller groups, and grasses mingling in between them. So when we took Rudbeckia fulgida goldsturm and put them in groups of 100 to 200 in mass plantings in the late 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and even now, they develop septoria leaf spot. And that's simply because the heat and humidity builds up within the community. And as the heat and humidity build up within a large community, and we get less air movement because it's a monoculture, that heat and humidity causes the fungal disease, the septoria, to take off. So that the disease keeps spreading and spreading through the planting. So the only way to maintain that is by frequent division. So when you put 100, 200, or even 50 in a planting together, every 3 to 5 to 6 years, you need to lift everything, redivide them, and put them back in so they can start healthy and fresh again. And you'll notice the indicators when you see the edges. If you look around the edges of the planting, every plant living around the edge is a healthy plant because they get air movement along the edges. The denser you go, the more unhealthy the plants are. But if you take a plant like Euchera, we mentioned Euchera villosa. Euchera villosa can live in a larger group simply because it has the ability to collect light healthier in a healthier way, and it's less susceptible to certain diseases. So it doesn't have the susceptibility to disease, and it's able to collect light, and the plants within that group can stay healthier. Simply because if you look at Euchera villosa's genetics, where it's lived in part shade, in dry soil. And the other good thing is you don't have to water it frequently because A, it lives in drier soil once it's established, and B, the foliage used to collecting light being shaded out by the canopy of trees. So if you put it in full sun, if it happens to shade itself out with this foliage, because they're a little denser, the plant's going to do fine. So one is the genetic characteristics of the plant. Can they live in large groups? And if they can't live in large groups, how frequently do you have to divide and re-energize them? And if they can live in large groups, then it's how often do you need, within your design, your creation, your composition, when do you want to use a larger group? And for what reason? Is it accenting the mingled groups? So again, I relate it, and I'm not a musician, so I could be just telling you something I know nothing about. But when I look at music, you have pauses, you have a whole note, you have quarter notes, notes that are longer, notes that are repeated faster, then you get a rest. And then you start the music over again, the theme of the song over again. So really you can, like I look at grasses in little larger groups, like the question asked. Sometimes I'll use grasses in a larger group just to rest the eye. So again, I'll repeat, know the characteristics of the plant. Can it engage with itself in a large planting and not get prone to disease? And if they can engage into a larger group, you make the groups the size you'd like based on your objectives, the composition you're trying to create or looking towards. And then when you do that, as we mentioned before, in the other two shows, we're making grids, review everything. Keep asking yourself the question over and over again, how is this going to live together? And have I done the right thing as far as getting the plants off to a good start? So I hope I touched that question well for those of you who've asked that, and those of you who didn't, I hope I explained a little bit about the characteristics that plants have to live with themselves or to be mingled and living with other plants. And we'll go over that more today. We're going to go and do some more small grids with plants, and we'll talk about that. So let's look at the questions. In fact, today, you're in for a bonus. I did 3 questions instead of 2, so buckle up. This is really going to shock most of you out there. Okay, now the first one is a question that does have an answer. Usually I said, you know what, just think about this. But I'm giving you a little quiz. So sit down, take a deep breath. Okay, ready for the quiz question. This is based on some of the things we were talking about. Ready? Does Echinacea purpurea have a mounding or vertical growth habit? I'll repeat that again. Does Echinacea purpurea have a mounding or vertical growth habit? We've talked about that before. And right away, 99% of you know that. You've got the answer. Come on, Roy, it's vertical. Grows taller than it gets wide. We know that. Come on, get going, get going. I got food in the oven. Let's get this show over with. All right, buckle, pop, pause. That's one question. Here's the second one. And you have to keep thinking about that. And not just, you have to keep thinking about all plants, mounding or vertical. Second question. Are solidagos easy to use in a new planting because the majority of them respect their space and do not become opportunistic in the garden? True or false? I'll read it again. Are solidagos easy to use in a new planting because the majority of them respect their space and do not become opportunistic in the garden? So what do you think? The answer simply is no. Solidagos, the majority of them, seed everywhere. And they start seeding the first year from seed. So when you put solidago in the garden, that will seed the first year you put it in, and it's going to reseed in all the open areas around all the young plants. And in 5 to 6 to 7 years, the solidagos will dominate the planting because they'll grow taller than the plants you've put in, most of them, and they'll shade out the plants that were initially there, and eventually all those plants will be gone. So again, that's characteristics. You don't want to just ask that of the solidago. You want to understand that about all the plants you're putting and what is their capability to spread into the earth, the existing earth. And if they're clumping, and if they basically do they respect their space, and for how many years will they respect their space? So again, it's just something to think about, and that question applies. I could put in there our let's pick a gene, our limonium. Our limonium's easy to use in a new planting Our geum's easy to use in a new planting. Our Coreopsis easy to use in. You can put every genus you want in the R, following the R. Are they easy to use? And then that's the question you ask yourself about every plant. And that way you'll have an understanding of how they're going to relate to the plants you put them with right away, so they don't become dominant. Okay, one more, here's that bonus question. A person came to the nursery last year and wanted to buy 10 bloody nose. Okay, I'm gonna repeat that again. A person came to the nursery, Northwind Perennial Farm, last year, and they wanted to buy 10 bloody nose. How would you have helped them? A, you could have punched 10 people in the face and brought them over to there and showed them, here's 10 people with a bloody nose. Is this what you want? B, you shrug your shoulders and say, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I shrugged my shoulders. Sherilyn brought me over and she said, Roy, they want to buy 10 bloody nose. I said, no, I don't have any idea what you're talking about. And where they grew up in central Illinois, I believe it was central Illinois, that was one of the common names they had for a plant she truly loved. And she saw it at Northwind. But I said, I don't know what that is, because and basically I just wanted to talk to you about Latin names and common names, because I know sometimes people stop listening to me when I use Latin names for plants. Right away, they just don't know what to make of what I have to talk about. And the only way I know how to represent a plant fairly is by using the Latin name, because that's the name it's known that humans have given the plant, and it's known around the world as that name. And it could be pronounced slightly differently with each culture, like the Japanese, the Chinese, Germans, they would have an accent and pronounce everything differently, but yet if we spell the plant out, it would be that plant anywhere around the world. And I know people totally get confused when I say it. I use Berwyn talk, broken Bohemian accent or a city accent when I say things. So, but the idea is the Latin name, you will never get confused. When someone came in, she came in for bloody nose, I couldn't help her. But we did find it. We walked around and it was Trillium recurvatum. And another name for it, there's another common name, is prairie trillium. And another common name is red trillium. If she came in and asked for Trillium recurvatum, I could have went and handed her our little 4-inch pot, and she could have taken her 10 Trillium recurvatum home, planted them. So we both learned something that day. She learned the value of the Latin name, that it's not just something people use to sound intelligent, it's something people use to create being smarter about gardening and befriending plants. So when you use the Latin name, you're actually befriending the plant as a way we created that plant to be known by all humans on Earth. And so it's much, much more helpful to come to know the plant when you understand and use the Latin name, and you'll never get misled. Another example of that is moorgrass. You know how many grasses are called moorgrass? There's 7 or 8 grasses you could get. One is Sesleria autumnalis moorgrass, Molinia ceruleum moorgrass. There's Molinia rundinacea, which is another species of Molinia, and already I'm maybe confusing some of you, but really if you patiently think Molinia ceruleum, you can look that up and be calm about it. Look it up, understand it, and come to know that plant. It doesn't have to be confusing, but yet if I just said moorgrass, you really wouldn't know which grass to use. And when people tell you just put in 20 moorgrass and you go buy moorgrass, it's not buying more grass, it's buying M-O-O, I believe, R, more grass. So I just wanted to point that out, that it's so important to understand the Latin names. And I know it might be, how would I say that? You might feel uncomfortable because I use the Latin names so much. And I'm not trying to make you feel uncomfortable. It's just simply the way I know the plants and the way I've always related to them. And if you have trouble saying it, one person told me, you know what, don't worry, Roy. It doesn't matter where you put the syllable. As long as you say it, just say it quickly. And you'll sound like you know the name. But when you look every plant up and you want to really understand those plants so they can have a chance to understand you, which is important, so you develop that relationship, the Latin names are just very helpful. So I just wanted to express that as part of this show. And again, if you have questions, we can review some of those in other shows. So we're going to move on to the sketches. And the first one I want to show you today or work with you is Allium Summer Beauty. It's a wonderful plant, and we talked about it before, and you can look it up, but one thing is it's sterile. The growth habit is mounding, and I'm placing it with Calamintha nepeta. Let's take a look at this. So we have Calamintha nepeta, subspecies nepeta, and we'll put the triangle, and the circle will be Allium Summer Beauty. Now, as I said in the other shows, it just do this and just take your time. But don't do it to try to get something done. Do it so you can review it, look it over, change something, look it over. Because the beauty of the way you can learn from this is what you're registering here goes through your arm, into the pen, onto the paper. It's such a wonderful way of learning, and it goes back when you write it down with your arm all the way through your arm, back into your head. So, and when you repeat this over and over, boy, you get to start to understand the relationships the plants will have as they mature in the ground. So let's look. I got a 4 by 5 inch area, 4 feet by 5 feet, which we've done on the grids before. And we'll start with Calamintha. And in this one image, you can see when I'm drawing, you can see the Calamintha and the Allium. I've added a bulb called Allium atropurpureum. So we'll put Calamintha, we're in about 15 inch centers, Allium, 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 Allium. And I could actually repeat this with the Calamintha taking the place of the Allium. But what you'll notice in growth rate, the Calamintha will be slightly faster growing as it matures the second year. And you might say, geez, Roy, that's a lot to know. Once you know it, it's not a lot to know because it's something you'll always know. But if you switch the plants, you'll still be okay. So here I've got Allium Summer Beauty, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got about 13 plants in here. And then what I'll do, if you see in the photo, I'll take Allium atropurpureum, which is a bulb, and I'll put them in between the Allium Summer Beauty and the Calamintha. And you might scatter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You might put 9 or 10 bulbs in, maybe 11. Because you see in the picture how they come up very vertical with the stem. The foliage comes up early, the foliage disappears, and you have these beautiful flat maroon, they look like flying saucers floating over the Calamintha and the Allium. And if you didn't have it in the photo, it still would look good. The two mounding plants are very attractive because their foliage complement each other. The narrow grass-like foliage of the Allium with the rounded leaves of the Calamintha. So you'll still have complementary combination. So that's basically how I do it. And again, let me just show you. Well, let's do another one right here. We'll do a 4 by 4 quickly. I just want to show you how flexible these patterns are. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4 by 6. So maybe in this particular pattern, I'm going to put Allium, Allium, Allium. Maybe I just want, like we mentioned earlier, I want a big block of alliums here. I want a statement. So I might make this whole thing alliums and then pick up the Calamintha here. Let me erase this one. These two. Again, have the eraser. And I'll put Calamintha at the end. And then if I put another grid in, say I do another grid here, I might transition to Coreopsis or some other plant. In the planting here, you see Amsonia, but this could be a group of Coreopsis, and then that Coreopsis could transition into another group of Echinacea, maybe white coneflowers. So you see how I'm not going to say it's easy, but you see how one leads to the next? Let me show you this. Take a look at that. Here's our original grid, Allium and Calamintha, with the Allium atropurpureum planted in between. I might add another one here. And that transitions to a larger group. And this was just emotional. I could have made the whole thing Allium Summer Beauty emotionally. Why not? There's no gardening police that are driving around looking for bad combinations of plants to say it. You can do anything you want as long as the plants live well together and get a good start. You want to spend most of your time doing something joyful, not digging out and replanting aggressive plants that have taken over the garden. So, then you could put Calamintha and start with Coreopsis, drifting into the Echinacea. Okay. Now next, we're gonna look at, this next picture shows, again, Allium Summer Beauty. Well, let's do a 4x5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4x5. We'll start with that. And we'll do Allium Summer Beauty. And Allium Summer Beauty will be the circle. I'm going to abbreviate it, LSB. The triangle is Sesleria autumnalis. That's more grass. But then if you look for more grass, they'll give you millennia. Trust me. And so we have Sesleria autumnalis. So I'll start with Allium Summer Beauty. 1, 2, 3. And I'll put a Sesleria here, here, here. Again, it's around 15-inch centers. Maybe a Sesleria here. Allium, 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 Sesleria, and Allium. So it's pretty simple. I just basically split the garden in half. Again, let me show you a connecting planting. We'll do a 4x4. The connecting planting, I'll put Sesleria. I'm going to overdo the Sesleria. I want it to be a bigger group of Sesleria. And then another connective planting, I might switch back to Allium, but I might add Coreopsis gold Zagreb. So I'll put Allium, Coreopsis, 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 and Coreopsis. So I put a few Allium to carry over from the first group, and then it drifts into another pattern of plants. And again, review this 3 or 4 times, because as you keep reviewing it, you'll ask yourself, are they too close? Should I keep the group bigger? Am I happy with the size of this group? And then after you review it, just do it 3 or 4, maybe 5 times. Don't go overboard on it, because there's no perfectly right way to do it. Because you've considered growth rate and growth habit, how they'll grow into each other. So you have a pretty good idea the combinations you're using will grow into each other in a healthy way. And then the changes you make will be changes you'll make in the garden 3 to 4 years later if you want to add more round flowers of the Allium, or you want to take out some of the Calamintha and put Coreopsis in. And that's called gardening. That's the joy of gardening. Okay. So here are some descriptions from my book. This is Allium Summer Beauty. And again, in my book, it'll get you started on height and spread. The height is 8 to 10 inches in late spring. It's 16 to 18 inches when it's in bloom. And then the spread is 8 to 10 inches, the crown, 8 to 10 inches in 2 years, and 12 to 14 inches in 3 to 5 years. So within my book, I try to get you momentum on how the growth rate and growth habit begin. But you'll refine those thoughts when you put them in the ground and watch them yourself. You'll eventually have your own way of seeing it, but at least you'll have momentum to start. So I had the Allium Summer Beauty. And this next picture, I wanted to show you the one I showed earlier. And this is the Perovsky Little Spire. And I really think this is important, where you can create your own growth rate and growth habit diagrams. And you'll see on this photo, this was in an earlier show, but I don't have any harm in repeating myself, because it's so important, the repetition and practice, practice, practice. So the first one is the 4.5-inch pot, and the diagram is 6 inches wide in June, 8 inches wide and 12 to 14 inches tall in October. Then I show the second year, June to early August, it's 8 inches wide that first year, and it's 8 to 10 inches tall. That's about 3 to 5 inches taller in June than it was when you first put it in the first June. And it gets 18 to 20 inches tall, roughly. This is roughly based on soil conditions and the climate. You know, do we have a warmer spring or a cooler spring or a wet spring? So that'll change it slightly, but not too much. And then you have the third year where it's 12 inches wide and 26 to 30 inches tall. And again, when you create this chart for yourself, you're storing information up here about growth rate of the plant from year 1, year 2, and year 3. And that again gives you that momentum to understand how that plant will grow and how then you can relate it to other plants. And again, it's like picking up the violin. You don't pick up the violin and just start giving concerts all over the country. You practice, practice, practice. And really anything anybody gets good at comes through practice. It doesn't come from, I'd like to be good at this. What's wrong? Why isn't it working out? And the plants that you practice with, that knowledge will forever be yours. And then it's something you can share with others too. So here's this next photo just shows you Sesleria mingled in with Calamintha nepeta, subspecies nepeta. I've showed you that photo earlier, but this is a different type of pattern, so you can see the differences. So our next one, we're looking at Sesleria autumnalis. So here I have Sesleria autumnalis, and we're creating a pattern with Oregano Herrenhausen, or Rosenkupple. Herrenhausen is slightly taller, a little bit larger, but you can look up each one. Rosenkupple, I think, has a little darker flower, but it's a perennial oregano. So let's make this again. Let's do 4 by 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll do 4 by 6. And we'll give the triangle is Sesleria autumnalis, and the circle is Oreganum, and it's a selection called Herrenhausen. Oreganum Herrenhausen. So we start with the Sesleria, that'll be at my edge. So I'll put 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'll put an oregano here. Now, the oregano, because of its growth rate and growth habit, it gets fairly large and sprawly. So I don't need near as many as I had put in with the Allium Summer Beauty, which has the mounding growth habit. So when you know the growth habit of oregano, that it gets moundy and sprawly, I might only put 2 in with the Sesleria. I'll put 1 here that'll spread in that direction. I'll put Sesleria here. And I might put another Sesleria here, and I might put an oregano right in that corner. And why would I put it in that corner? Because I want it to move into my next pattern right here. And I could do more Sesleria. So as I expand the Sesleria planting, because the idea, and I'm expanding that only, 1, to show you how I would do it, but 2, if you have a large scale, your patterns need to be stretched out. If you don't stretch your patterns out in a long scale, it looks too choppy. It goes from being a musical, like a piece of Mozart or something, when it's stretched out. If you make it choppy, it turns into a TV jingle. Remember? You wonder where the yellow went. If you brush your teeth with Pepsodent, boom, TV jingle. So if you use choppy plantings, you got a garden full of TV jingles. You stretch the patterns out based on scale, you've got better composition. So I'm just stretching it out with the Sesleria. I have a mechanical pen, and I'm losing my lead. So we have an extra pen. Put Sesleria. And then I might put another oregano. I'm stretching the pattern out here. And then if I continue the pattern of something else, I might start here with maybe Stakey's Humolo. So I'll put that in here. And again, I review this to count up the numbers to look that I have 15-inch centers. Right now I'm doing it quickly because it's in my head. And then after I do it quickly, I review the square footage. Do I have Do I have them on 15-inch centers? Maybe I have one too many. I would take one out. I would add two if I need two more. And that's the beauty of the reviewing the plant patterns. Let me show you this one. The oregano is a beautiful plant. And simply it flowers in midsummer, goes all the way through into late summer. So it's a beautiful addition, but to spot it in here and there like we did here. And I have Sesleria and again from my book. There, you can see it. And again, the height is 8 to 10 inches in late spring, 14 to 18 inches in bloom when it blooms in mid to late August, early September. Okay, let's do one more. It's hard to stop. I'm having a good time here. I have to say, I want to tell all of you, and I hope you have as much fun doing this. I know it seems like, my God, Roy, how many grids do we? I think the more you do, the more you bring into your world, the more powerful your designs are going to be. And there's nothing wrong with having powerful designs, and there's nothing wrong with being joyful doing it, and having a good time. And again, I'm using sheets of paper and a felt tip pen. I haven't planted anything yet, because when you get out in the field and do your planting this spring, you're going to make field adjustments also. So it's another review you'll take your patterns through. So let's look at Russian sage, Perovskia. I use the common name. Perovskia atriplycifolia. So we'll put 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll do 5. This will be a little larger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll do 5 by 7. And I'm starting with a larger area because I'm using two plants that get larger. Perovskia atriplycifolia and Coreopsis verticillata golden showers are common. You can see it in the photo here. So I'll take we'll start with the Coreopsis golden showers, and only put a triangle for Coreopsis, circle for Perovskia. Now, based on growth rate and growth habit, which one of these plants will grow quicker and get larger faster? The Perovskia will. The species atriplycifolia. There's selections now like Little Spire, and I think Baby Blue Jeans, another one, that grow much shorter. And the other thing is, if you want Perovskia atriplycifolia to be shorter, you just prune it. You can prune it in June, and if you prune it about a third or a halfway down, it'll have more flowers and it'll be more vertical and it won't be as wide, it'll be more upright if you can prune it. So you can manipulate pruning plants by selective pruning. And my next show, I'll bring in a book. It's a very good book. Tracy DiSabuto-Ost, you might have her book. A very good book on pruning plants to selectively to get them to bloom at different times of the year for you. I'll bring that in next time. We'll review that, take a look at it. So we'll put the Coreopsis, and again, we'll put them on a little farther spacing, maybe 18-inch. And then I'll put a Perovskia here. I'll put another one here, maybe one over in the corner. And the rest, I'll do Coreopsis. Again, because the Perovskia will get bigger and wider. And then let's look at an attachment grid. I like to do the attachment grids now. You guys got me hooked on doing the attachment grids. So we have a Perovskia here. I'll put a Coreopsis, another Coreopsis, a Perovskia, Perovskia, Coreopsis, 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 and I changed my mind. I think I'll put a Perovskia here. But then I have to think, see that Coreopsis in the middle? The Perovskia might shade that one out. And then you just, if it shades it out, you just make a decision, is it hurting anything? Is it okay to shade it out? Your Perovskia grouping gets bigger. Or you can take one of the Perovskias out, or you just prune them, keep them short. So you have all these decisions you can think about when you're going into the stewardship of the garden. You have alternatives, which are very good. So that's the Coreopsis and the Perovskia. I have a little farther spacing, maybe 18-inch spacing. I use less Perovskia, a little more Coreopsis. I carried into another, I stretched the pattern out, Coreopsis with more Perovskia. In this one, I have a heavier grouping of Perovskia, so I have a little more blue foliage, blue flowers. And then where do I go from there into my next patterns? And as you can see, I've taken the information out of my book about spreading height and foliage. I've done that for Perovskia and Coreopsis. So we'll finish this show with one more Perovskia, and we're going to use Perovskia Little Spire and Echinacea purpurea virgin. It's a selection of an Echinacea, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a selection of Echinacea, and you can see on the photo, the petals are straight out like a saw blade. It was a selection made by Pete Outhoff from his home in Umelo, and now it's in the trade. It's beautiful because the flowers are perfectly flat. They don't arch over. So that again, it's not something you want to use everywhere, but it's something that has its particular special moment in your design. So it's finding out how does that fit in the direction you want to go in the composition of your garden. So we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll do 5 by 7 again. And basically, we're going to do the same thing, except I'm going to put even more coneflowers in because the coneflowers will take up less space than the Coreopsis golden showers. They have the more vertical growth habit. So we'll put circle for Echinacea, virgin. And again, the triangle will be Perovskia, but this one's Little Spire. Little Spire is shorter and narrower. So I think I'll start with Little Spire. And I'm going to put them up probably 18-inch centers also. And then I'm going to put Echinacea virgin around them all. I'm going to make them thicker because they have a narrower growth habit. So instead of 2 or 3, I might make them 3 plants thick. And I'm going to put them on 15-inch centers because they're going to grow vertical. So I'm going to tighten up the spacing. And again, a little spire, little spire, little spire here, little spire here. And then on my connecting bed, I had a little spire connecting to that bed. I might go with what the plant we did before. I think I'll put some Coreopsis golden showers in here and make a big group. We talked about a large group. So I'll make a statement here with golden showers. And here's that review moment. If you see me reviewing this, look at my spacing. I have golden showers because I was in a hurry. I put too many golden showers in because I was so excited about coming up with golden showers. I put too many in, and that's when you review it the second time. I took 4 out. I didn't need that many. But again, I got excited because I knew how cool the golden showers look with the Perovskia, and with those white coneflowers, virgin. You're going to stop people walking down the street. When they see this, they're going to stop because they've never seen anything like this before. Typically, when people walk down the street, what do they see? They see a hedge pruned square. They see a lawn kind of mowed. They see a shrub declining and dying, but don't really think about it because it's everywhere. But when they stop and see this at your home, and they see you out there smiling and happy and just joyful about life, they're going to pause. They're going to say, how did you do this? What did you do? Who helped you with this? And you'll say, well, what is it what does you want to know? And how can I help you? Share what you know with others. That's the most important thing you can do with all the things you love about gardening is how you share it with others. So I think, let me turn this around so you get a look at it before we leave today. But I hope this show has helped you. We've talked about a lot. We've had some good discussions on some questions, and then have fun. I think that's how, let's just have a good time. We're getting into spring, so enjoy yourselves. See you later.